Okay, we're going to go through classifying quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals are four-sided shapes. We already went through triangles, which are three-sided shapes. You can go through pentagons, hexagons, but we're going to focus here, and our ideas will build from there. So, we're just going to quickly go over why these are named the way they are. For instance, our first example is called a what? Rectangle. A rectangle, be very specific with these rules, has two pairs of sides, okay, that are identical. So here's one, here's another, and it has four right angle inside of it, four right angles inside of it. If we were to just talk about sides that are equal in length and parallel, technically these are parallel also, okay, and we'll talk about which lines means what. When we have a dash is usually referring to the side length. When we have a little arrow, arrows refer to whether something is parallel. Okay, and now these are parallel. This shape right below it has two pairs, okay, that are the same length, and two pairs that are parallel, exact same as the rectangle. What's the difference between a rectangle and this shape here? The angles. The angles in a rectangle are 90 degrees. The angles here are not. We don't exactly know what they are. Does anyone know what this shape is technically called? Parallelogram. Okay. Now this is considered a parallelogram. Now to be a parallelogram, we're looking for sides here. Parallelograms have the same rules of a rectangle, a pair of sides that are the same length, and another pair that are the same length. Both of the pairs being technically different. Okay, this length is different from this length, but it has no right angles involved. As soon as we get four right angles, we're looking at a rectangle. It's no longer named a parallelogram. It follows the rules of parallelogram, but it's much more specific because of the right angles. Okay? We'll then talk about the difference between this shape and this shape. So, the one below, I imagine most of us know what's that called?
Square.
That's a square. Okay. Now, a square follows many of the rules of a rectangle, right? It has a pair of sides that are the same, and the other two opposite sides are the same. They're both parallel, okay? And it has four right angles. What's the difference between a rectangle and a square?
All sides are parallel.
All sides are already parallel in a square too. Yes, Scott?
That's same.
Same.
The rectangle has two longer.
In a square, every side is the exact same length, okay? And that is an even more specific classification because we're technically following all the parallelogram rules also. The only difference is we have four right angles and each of the sides are the same, okay? So keep that in mind. This shape here, it follows many of the same rules as a square. We have opposite sides that are parallel, okay? And actually, all four side lengths are identical in length. What doesn't it have that a square does?
Oh, parallel.
Logan.
90 degree.
Yeah, it has no 90-degree angles. Does anyone know what this shape's called?
Oh.
That's right, it's a rhombus.
I thought the rhombus was bigger.
This is called a rhombus. So in order to be a rhombus and not a parallelogram, is that all the sides need to be the same length. It still follows all the parallelogram rules, but a parallelogram has a pair that are different than the other pair, which we don't have in a rhombus. Now this last shape here has no sides the same length. It has one set of parallel sides. What is this called? Trapezoid. And trapezoids can look very different from one to another. I-Z-O-D? Is that right? Did I spell that right? Quickly take a look. Oh, it's E-Z-O-I-D. That's it. Okay. There you go. So this is called a trapezoid in this case.